Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault, and today I have gone deep into the vault to retrieve a minifigure collection to review for you guys that is pretty unique. Out of our years of collecting figs here in the studio, there are very few fig collections that do not feel complete unless you actually have quite a few of the brick-built sets included. So that would be Overwatch, the very, very popular Blizzard title that's been out for a couple of years, and LEGO made a really, really nice theme of LEGO sets to go along in 2019. Like always, I'm going to be going through this collection chronologically from when they came out, how much they are currently worth, and what sets they came out in. If you want to see more deep dives into LEGO minifigure collections, I've left links in the description below. And if you wanted to see our absolutely massive minifigure collection in person, you can visit us at our studio on the weekends. We currently are open for guided and non-guided tours. And of course, it's not just figs that we've got here, but some gigantic LEGO dioramas, as well as a huge amount of very large and intricately built custom LEGO models. Everybody says that the creations and collections look a whole heck of a lot bigger in person, but I guess that is something that you're going to have to find out for yourself. Now it's time to jump into every single LEGO Overwatch minifigure ever made. So here are the first two figs, Tracer and Widowmaker from the set, Tracer versus Widowmaker. The smallest and easiest to get of the sets. It makes both of these figs around $2 if you wanted to get either of them individually. Tracer has a great print here on the front. I think the yellow pants and the general look for this character is captured very well as a minifig. I think she's probably one of the more successful minifig characters for the Overwatch line. This is her alternate expression. Pretty nice. I think this face could be used pretty well for a maybe a custom ice climber or something in the future. She's got two pretty decent relatively new molds here. I'm not sure if this is the first time they've made this weapon, this sort of pistol weapon mold for the Overwatch line, but it does appear in both Tracer and for Widowmaker. But let me just show you the back detailing real quick. Solid bit of detailing as well. It is kind of too bad that that neck bracket by default is meant to cover up such an intricate bit of printing that we have going on for the character, but she's really, really solid. And then this is Widowmaker here. She generally would look much more successful as a character if they'd put side printing on her legs or had a dual molded legs, actually. That probably would have even turned out better for her. And I'll be saying that a lot in this episode. She's not the only one that I feel like looks a little bit light on the detailing because of that. And that's just because she partially is just such an advanced and intricate looking character with so much like so many tiny little details. Great molds for the hair though, hair and this kind of interesting helmet as well. One of the better brick-built weapons, I would say, the weapon that she's holding. It still may be a little bit bulky for my taste, but it is certainly not bulky when compared to some of the other brick-built weapons for these characters. Moving down, there are three figs that came out in the Genji versus Hanzo set. So we've got Hanzo, Genji, and a Shimada henchman. Let's look at the figs individually. Just like Widowmaker, I think Hanzo would have done better with dual molded legs, though he is a little bit more of a simple character in terms of detailing, so I don't think it distracts quite as much as Widowmaker. He still looks pretty successful, pretty complete as a fig. He's got the nice dark blue bow. He's also got a quiver on the back. Let me show you the back detailing. Nothing too special here. It's pretty much what you would have expected underneath the quiver. And you see this little mold. That's actually a new piece that was made for both Hanzo and Genji for this line. All these figs are still really cheap, though Genji is slightly more expensive than the rest, even if 50 cents makes a difference here. I think he is a little bit more well sought after, and he's got this very large and interesting mold for his helmet. Here, I don't think he's as successful as a fig for just looking like the character in minifigure form. His white arms contrast a little bit, kind of a lot actually is what I'm trying to say. His white arms and the white sides of his legs contrast pretty starkly. He only really looks pretty good from like these front angles here, and then kind of from around the sides, he just doesn't feel feel quite as good. Even though his back detailing is covered up most of the time, they didn't skimp out on the actual print detail, which I appreciate across the board for all of these characters, but I put them on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of successfully pulled off characters in minifig form. This Shimada henchman is a pretty basic looking guy. I like this slicked back hairpiece though, the simple black suit. He's actually kind of just a fun figure to have. Amazing expression. I just consider him a pretty decent fig all around, even though there isn't anything particularly special about him. And I don't know if people would have even noticed too much if a third figure hadn't come out in this set. So I'm glad that he was included, even though he doesn't really represent something too special. Now, when talking about Soldier 76, not gonna lie, this is a pretty easy choice for me. He is my least favorite looking minifigure from this wave, from this first wave of 2019 figs for Overwatch. I feel bad because the designers were kind of left between a rock and a hard place. There's a lot of subtle detailing going on in the legs that doesn't have a ton of color change, and the same thing goes for the arms, but with not having any leg printing and his arms just being so bright and his hands so red, the look is not captured. There's something that I feel like is missing from this particular character, and on top of that, his brick-built giant weapon just feels super, super goofy. The detailing itself on the torso isn't bad, but yes, I would consider him the weakest looking character out of any of these Overwatch figs. Now let's contrast that completely when it comes to McCree. I think he's probably one of the best. He's certainly top 3 in terms of just really good looking detailing. I love this bit of cloth that he has around one shoulder, and he looks great. He's got the alternate hairpiece and the hat. He comes with a regular pistol piece, just a really good looking dude that could work in any kind of Wild West theme. But let's take off some of these accessories to see the details. And here we have solid marks across the board for this guy. I love the gold highlighting with a little bit of that orange or orangish yellow kind of color just seeping in as well. It gives off a great dimension. Really solid looking dude through and through. Probably one of my favorite figs from the wave. And now we are looking at Reaper, who I also think is a pretty successful figure. He's simple, but he lucks out because he's mostly black, so it actually makes sense for him to not really have any printing on the legs. And looking at him all around, he feels pretty darn complete, even though he's covered up quite a bit with the cape in the back. That is actually a specially cut cape piece that was made just for Reaper. Let me show you some of the other details. The face print that we have here is inarguably a great looking detail, and then even though this is completely covered up 100%, once again, Overwatch does a pretty good job at completing out the back bit of printing for these figs. Next up is D.Va and Reinhardt, or I should say Hannah Song and Reinhardt from the D.Va vs. Reinhardt set. It was a little bit more expensive than the other ones, and only 2 figs came out, so naturally they're both going to be worth a little bit more, though the Hannah Song fig goes for a little bit more than Reinhardt. First of all, I think she's a little bit more of a successful looking minifigure, and I also think that this character is just a little bit more popular than Reinhardt's. Looking at the Hannah Song fig a little bit closer first, they pretty much got this character down. She doesn't need to have dual molded legs, and the printing just on the insides of the legs actually works out pretty well for this character. Great prints on the back. She's got a great alternate expression, and the single pink gun works well for her. I think both the weapons accessories and the mold for her hair and the facial expressions, she's one of the most successful figs out there in terms of actually really capturing the look of the character. And then Reinhardt, I'd also put him kind of on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of really looking like his character, and that is a little bit forgivable just because he is supposed to be in his brick built giant mech most of the time. And let me show you what he looks like with his alternate headpiece. Definitely not a bad look for a helmet. It kind of reminds me of the mold for Saruman, or the mouth of Saruman, I should say. Great print on the back, and if you didn't notice, he does have 2 prints for his face. So that's when he's wearing the helmet, and this is when you can see him with the hairpiece. Both are great. I just think contextually he doesn't work very well as an actual fig. Let me show you these 2 in their mech suits. Now here these 2 are together. Contextually, I think Reinhardt especially makes a lot more sense now that he's in his much larger armor. I mean, they're still not going for particular realism. He obviously wouldn't scale really well with any of the other figs. Same goes for D.Va, but I don't think that was necessarily the point. These are still play sets, and I think they have a pretty decent look all around. D.Va, in terms of a build, definitely looks better, I think, still. So Reinhardt is kind of a miss, I would say, just a little bit in terms of overall detailing, though I don't think he's actually that bad. Now, moving on to the figs from the set Watchpoint Gibraltar. This was the largest one to come from the original Overwatch wave. And this is also the biggest guy to come from that set. This is the Big Fig Winston. Pretty darn good looking character all around. All the molding for him is special. Sometimes big figs are just sort of this placid, very smooth looking thing where they just maybe add a print or two and they just change the colors and then they say, hey, it's Hulk, hey, it's Darkseid or something. But that's not the case with Winston. So I really like that everything you see here is something that belongs to Winston himself in terms of the mold, in terms of the head mold. So that is great. I think they did quite a good job putting him together. He's $9, but interestingly, so is everybody else. Everybody's around $9 or $10 from this Watchpoint Gibraltar set. So this is Mercy. Really nice looking fig. Also, I would say a pretty successful looking minifig in terms of what the character looks like and how she's portrayed in minifig form. Excellent mold for the hairpiece. You can see that halo type mold that goes along the top of the hair. Not quite a halo, but it still looks pretty darn good. Great looking prints for the legs. There's a wonderful fade there with the orange fade, just a little bit on the on that gunmetal color that you see for the legs. Really, really nice. Let me show you the printing on the back quickly. And also this is her alternate expression, which I also think has a pretty solid look through and through. Really, really good version of this character. Now here is Farah. Farah's looking really cool with so much bright blue. This is really a very different and unique looking character, especially when you look at the collection as a whole. This Farah really pops in a few points of interest right here in the beginning. This armor piece is actually, I think the iteration, it's like the second wave of Nexo Knight's armor that I think maybe the color has changed ever so slightly with blue on blue. So that's funny. It's not an exclusive mold for the armor here, but the head mold certainly is. And we also have a very interesting point of connection to make these blue spines sticking out the back. Let me show you guys. Oh yeah, this is the brick-built weapon here. Really simple. I don't think it looks particularly great at all. And then this is just the body detailing for the character, and it's really excellent. The darker skin tone contrasts amazingly well with the nice bright blue, and look at all of that detail totally hidden on the back. This is a really, really wonderful fig for doing custom stuff later down the line, and the face is also particularly nice. The alternate expression looks awesome. Now moving along, this is a second version of Reaper, and interestingly enough, BrickLink has decided that this is not a different enough character to make him count as a different fig from the first time we got him in the first set, though I think he is. You can see there's an alternate piece included for this more ghost-like, wavy, misty effect here instead of actually having minifigure legs. He did come with his black legs in this same set, but he also came with an alternate piece that you could switch out. But because this wasn't the default piece used, BrickLink doesn't actually count that as a different version of him, but we do here. That is the difference. It's just this bottom piece. The print for him is the same. Everything else is the same. The bad build for the guns is the same. It's just these bottom pieces. My guess is he would go for around $3, maybe just $1 more than his original price, because this bottom piece is worth about $1 roughly on the BrickLink market. And now we are moving on to another character that needs just a little bit of more context with his brick-built companion. We have Hammond the hamster. He is by far one of my favorite exclusively molded characters to have ever come from a Lego minifigure line. I'm having visions of putting him into a Rick and Morty themed build at some point. Maybe you guys can guess what that could be, but it's awesome. He's got the little strap that goes around his chest, and it matches up with the little backpack. He's got a wonderful, determined expression, but let's show him in the wrecking ball. It still might actually be my favorite function out of any of the sets and anything that came from Overwatch. There we go. Hammond pops out of the top of the wrecking ball. He's got a wonderful little bit of simple controls here that shows you how he controls his larger mech. And then this is what it looks like from a little bit further away. It's got a ton of folding functions. I think this one is maybe one of my favorite hands down sets from the line. I think it's just such a fun character, a really excellent build concept that was put together wonderfully. And this is a guy that will probably not go into the minifigure stand, but instead Hammond will hang out in his little exposed control booth right there at the top of his wrecking ball mech. And then the same thing kind of goes for these last two guys as well. We have Junkrat and Roadhog from the Junkrat and Roadhog set, and individually they're a lot of fun to show off, but I'll also show them in their full context within the build, and you'll know what I mean. They really just should be with their original build. Junkrat in particular I think looks awesome. I love this piece used that's attached to his back. It can spin around a little bit, and if you get 4 of them, that would look cool for some sort of custom off-road wheeler at some point, though only one comes for a fig, so it would be pretty expensive, I think, and great detailing for the front. Let me take off these weapons, and now you can see all the detailing here on the front a little bit better. The orange peg leg is awesome looking. There's the wheel detailing on the back, even if you take it off. I still think it looks pretty good without the special wheel mold as well. Maybe the most detailed of a Lego Big Fig that we have gotten yet. Look at all of this extra detailing that we have here on the arms with the elbow pad and the wiring that attaches. There's a wonderfully detailed tattoo print on the belly. Sorry, he's attached just by one stud. Maybe if I can get him onto 2, he'll stay on a little bit nicer. But yes, this guy looks so good from all angles. Look at all this little bit of mold detailing for the pants that are kind of like hanging down, like the overalls that are somewhat hanging down there. There's outlines for the knee pads and the boots. This guy is arguably the most detailed Big Fig we have gotten yet from Lego, so I really like to see that they're playing around with the molds and just spending more time adding more details to particular characters. So here is the Junkertown set with Junkrat with the wheel bomb on his back here, and Roadhog. It's more of just a display piece. It is actually kind of an interesting set all around, but as you can see, it definitely works to have all these guys together within the original concept. Sometimes the figs on their own don't really drive the original look of the designers totally home. So this is how we're choosing to display it. And let me show you guys just a couple other sets. Along in the collection is this much larger brick-built Bastion here. He's very posable. He has the ability to transform, and I also think that color combination is relatively solid. I've got the prices listed of what his original retail price is. He'll probably change after the set becomes retired. Then there is this smaller Lego Omnic Bastion set. It was an exclusive sale that actually you had to get from the Blizzard website and not the Lego website. I don't know how many were sold exactly, but in terms of an exclusive little release, it's not the most expensive in terms of some type of collectible Lego set. But there's one other person, or one other item, I suppose, and this final fig isn't actually a figure that we're looking at, but instead this is a tracer that has golden guns. These golden guns are not listed anywhere on BrickLink. Officially, this piece has not been made in this color because there are so few of them, and this tracer with the golden guns came in a special little review offer promotional box that we got from Lego and Blizzard when the first wave officially came out. And you can actually see on the back, it's a little bit overexposed, but you can see on the back the instructions. That's all it was. Inside was just a little plastic bag with the pieces for Tracer and the guns. And right, so you can't find any trace of this piece in gold, molded here. On any, you can't find it on eBay, you can't find it on BrickLink. There just are so few, and I'm curious to know if this particular piece or set of pieces was distributed in any other way other than what came out in the Blizzard promotional box, because if so, then my guess is there's probably, I don't know, it would be hard pressed to imagine that there'd be more than 100 of these boxes out there. There probably was. My guess is that they were also made to give to maybe some of the staff that worked on the game or other people that were part of the process as well, but the number is so little that we just don't know how rare these pieces are. My guess is that they over time will probably become pretty collectible and rare, or who knows, maybe this piece will end up getting produced in another set and it won't be worth anything extra special. But for now, this is by far one of the most rare sets of pieces that we actually have in LEGO, period. Not just rare within this particular Overwatch collection, but rare within all of our minifigure collections that we have. So that's kind of an interesting little tidbit. And right, let me show you guys the whole thing all together once again. And here it is one more time, all of LEGO Overwatch. I'm curious to see what the year 2020 brings for this particular theme. As far as I can tell, people have been pretty much unanimously enjoying what comes from the Overwatch wave. I know some people have been talking about the figs not looking the way that they wanted. For the most part, I totally understand the creative choices that was made by the design group. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me during this deep dive of the LEGO Overwatch minifigure collection. Let me know what types of videos you'd like to see us do in the future. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time at BrickVault.